Hey beautifuls, welcome to my page, Reality Awareness. I am Hannah, the Life Purpose Queen, and I got the intuition to close my Goal Reacher program this coming week. So if you're wanting to work with me one-on-one, the link is above me in the comments, is above me on this video, and I will pop it in the comments now too, because I'll be closing the doors to this on Friday. So if you're wanting to work with me one-on-one, going deep diving into all the different areas of your life to completely clear out the past 10 years that we've been in, or the past 8.5 years, and move through into the age of Aquarius with a clean slate and be able to move into what you're really meant to be doing in this life. My Goal Reacher program will be closing at the end of this week. So I just wanted to say that first. Hey John, welcome. It is a bit of a hot topic, taboo topic. I was like, why am I talking about all these taboo topics? I'm like, where is this coming from? I'm like, I find it easy to talk about the hard stuff. Not really. I just talk about it, right? And I'm like, I don't know, this stuff needs to be talked about, right? So let me just jump in and share this, and I will pop that link in the comments as well. So obviously talking about this stuff is like a trigger warning. I probably should have put that in there. Maybe I can edit that and put that in there, because I meant to say a bit of a trigger warning. It is. Okay, let me just pop this in and I will sort that out, because I forgot about that. I did. Okay, let me just concentrate and do this bit, right? And if you've got any questions about abortions, miscarriages, like the hard to talk about stuff, right? Please just comment it in and I shall answer your questions about it too. Feeling really, really cool to talk about this. Okay, let me concentrate on this bit. Hang on a sec, and say hi when you're here. Please let me know that you're here. Give me some love hearts, or just say hi, I'm here. Hey Cody. Okay, what am I concentrating and doing? Okay, okay. Okay, so let me just pop that in. Hey Tanya. All right, yeah, and I wanted to talk about this too, in a sense. Oh, hang on, let me try and, I meant to put a trigger warning in the top of this. I forgot about that bit, because it's not only a hard to talk about topic, it's the fact that it's like so common. It's a bit like sexual abuse or money issues. Like everybody's like deals with it, but nobody talks about it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like in these hard to talk about things. Okay, cool. Okay, is this gonna let me edit it while I'm live? Yes, it does. Okay, go away. I forgot to put trigger warning. Just let me sort this out. I was nervous about coming on here and talking about this, hence why I'm like still editing it. Okay, cool. Trigger warning. I did it. I fixed it up. Okay. Getting there. Okay, no, don't end live video. Let's just go back, see if I'll agree. Oh, okay. Stay on this page. I'm still broadcasting, yes, but why can't I just get out of this page now? Okay, let me just go back in here. Okay, tech stuff. I'm sorting it out. Okay, let me just jump in here, because I just got to share this now. Can you tell I'm also nervous to talk about this? And I wasn't going to like talk about it. Well, I wasn't going to talk about it. It's been on my mind for like the past 2 to 3 weeks, actually. Abortions, miscarriages, stillbirths, sacral chakra stuff, right? And it's been on my mind, and then I was posting stuff, and then other people were like, this has been on my mind. And I'm like, it's been on my mind too. And it's like, oh, it's in the collective, right? Okay, cool. I'm back on here. Let me share this. And like, do you guys remember, like, not long ago, I just shared a post and I said, like, okay, messages coming through, I didn't know I'd be sharing them, but when I talk about, I think I got the message, sorry, let me, 2 seconds, sharing this, okay, got it, done. I got the message, you know, and I shared that post and I had like, it was all the stars, like you could see the stars coming down, you know, and I got the message that around the 23rd to 25th of October, like there's a whole pile of like souls waiting to come in, but they weren't like rainbow children. You know how we got the indigo, the crystal, and the rainbow children? It wasn't them that I could see. It looked like, I don't know, like the silver star beings, like the next wave of children to come in, right? And I really got the message that I'm like around the 23rd to the 25th of October. Now, I don't know what astrological stuff is going on there. I'm not a trained astrologer, but I know there's all these world events and everything going on at the moment. But I got the message that they're kind of like waiting to come in, like around that date for whatever reason. I don't know. And it's interesting because, hey Kelly, it's interesting because now we're talking about abortions, miscarriages, stillbirths. The reason I'm feeling called to talk about it was like, well, I'm just getting the message to talk about it. Hey Beck, welcome to your first time. I kind of only put the pieces together the other day, and I'm like, oh, and now I'm being called to talk about this because we need to heal our sacral. We need to heal the space for these next wave of children to come in. Do you know what I mean? Like abortions, miscarriages, like that, they happen all the time and nobody really talks about them. It's not like an open public discussion because it brings up grief and it brings up shame and it brings up all these emotions that we don't want to deal with, right? Now, I spoke about this in depth on in my Trust and Intuition group on Friday, and I went deep into it. Now, I'm probably not going to go into as deep as what I did in that group because that's where my drive is. And you guys who are in Trust and Intuition, you get the ins and outs, you get the full depth of what I do, right? So I just wanted to, but I still felt called to share about this on public live stream, and that's why I've jumped out here and I've you know, I kind of posted, I'm like, do you guys want me to talk about this? So like, I knew I had to talk about it regardless. Anyway, I was like, okay. Yes, yeah, it is true. You're right. So I kind of don't really know where to start with it. I do and I don't, right? So let's talk about the fact that those star beings are coming in, and the thing that I wanted to say too, like men are deeply connected to this, you know, is, you know, having an abortion or a miscarriage or a stillbirth is very, like a very woman thing. I don't know how much men get I don't know if it's get a say in it. Maybe that's part of it, but that's not the point I'm trying to get to. I guess maybe, and this is just maybe from my own perspective, and I'm not sure, man, maybe you can give me some insight, I don't know. Like, I guess I am asking your perspective, men, if you want to talk about it on this live stream with me. Even if you're watching the replay, please comment below. I guess men, I don't know, like from my perspective, men, maybe they don't have a say in it in a sense, but it's more, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, if we think about the sacral chakra, like men have a sacral chakra as well. As I always like, men have a womb that's called their sacral, right? And when we look at it from a life purpose perspective, you know, like we're coming down through the chakras and we're like deeply, like our sacral chakra is where we're, what's the word? Gestating our life purpose before we birth it onto the earth. So whether you're gestating a baby or a project that's your baby, you're still gestating it. Like, do you know what I mean? And if there's any like, and this is, and I'm talking about birthing a project or life purpose or a baby. Well, they're all the same life purpose, but do you know, or trying to manifest something, right? Our sacral is our womb where we manifest things. If there's hurt, trauma, shame, all this stuff in our sacral, physically and metaphysically, we're going to have trouble falling pregnant or like miscarriages or all that sort of thing. Now, when I say that, it's not like, oh, you're wrong and you're bad and like you're not able to have a baby because you've got all this shit in your sacral. Like, no. And I guess what I'm saying here on this live stream, it's like, it's kind of like all of it, right? And obviously I'm starting to talk about miscarriages, so let's start there. So with miscarriages, it's like, you know, like you'll fall pregnant and then obviously you lose the baby. Now with that, it's like there's so many factors into that, right? Yay! There's so many factors in that, in a sense that you know, like a woman can go, and a man can go through lots of shame, or I'm not good enough, or there's something wrong with my body, or, you know, all that sort of thing. From a metaphysical point of view, and this goes for abortions and stillbirths as well, and this is just one train of belief, one train of thought. This is not like the be all and end all. This is just a belief system. Maybe that's not truth for you, and I want you to tune into what's truth for you. Okay, so one train of belief thought system is that each soul comes onto the planet, and we contract who our parents are going to be. We contract you know, like what life we're going to live. We contract who we are, how we're coming in, how we're born. We contract our chart and the timing of the astrological events and all that sort of jazz, right? Like, apparently that stuff is all pre-planned and contracted out, right? That's just one train of thought system on the planet, right? I don't want you to think this is the be all and end all. Yes, men do or should have a say in this. Yes, thank you for speaking. If there's any other men and you want to have a say, like, please speak too. And it's interesting, right? Because, you know, like, that's one train of thought that we come in and we contract the soul. So for like a miscarriage, you know, like, we might think there's something wrong with our body. And I say it's kind of like, one, it can be preparation, right? That there's other things that need to fall into place or happen, or you need to take care of yourself or step into... Okay, so I'm going to give you the example of a client that I was working with many years ago. And she was very in her masculine, very do-do-do, as we are, as us entrepreneur women are. We do-do-do-do. And constantly doing. Now, when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, the masculine is the doing, it's the action, it's the go and, you know, get stuff done. The feminine is the receiving. We open up, we be, we allow, and we grow. Yeah? The masculine is like, let's get shit done. Now, this client that I was working with is very in her masculine energy, very, you know, doing as we do, right? And she fell pregnant, but she had a miscarriage. And I intuitively just knew. I'm like, well, that soul wants you to, like, create space for it. It's like, hey, I'm trying to come in, but you're not letting me because you're busy, right? There's kind of no space for me to come in. And she kind of knew that, but she didn't really do anything about it. And then she broke her ankle, and then she had to stop. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she was on crutches for 6 weeks, and then she fell pregnant, and then she had the baby. And do you know what I mean? I'm like, if we look at it from a, like, standpoint, I'm like, you have to stop to receive, even if it's energetically right. And I've been talking a lot about the energetics of masculine, feminine energy and how to be and change your energy in my reality awareness support group. Hey, Dorothea. So it's like, you know, if we're needing to stop, like, do you know what I mean? So some, like, for example, I'm talking about miscarriages in second in time. It's like, sometimes the soul is like, hey, trying to come in, are you gonna, like, make space for me? Like, because you're really busy. Like, that sort of thing, right? So there's, like, that's just one little example, yeah? And it's like, when we look at it like that, it's kind of like, it takes the, like, oh, there's something wrong with my body. Oh, there's something wrong with me, right? Now, there's so many factors. I've done, like, a whole free training on fertility. You can find it on my YouTube or on my website. If you go to my website, realityawareness.com, there's, like, I've done a whole training on fertility and things that you can do to be ready for, like, you know, to allow a soul to come in, right? Yeah, receiving. That's been one of your big lessons this year. Yeah, to how to receive on an energetic level, to let things in, right? So when we, you know, like, and then obviously there's miscarriages, like, we can go into, like, the physical aspect of, like, what's going on with your body. Now, when we look at it, and if you're in my reality awareness support group, you'll hear me talk about, we've just gone through the ears and we've dropped into the heart, which has gone to the throat, and the ears are all about receiving. So your ear chakras, and this is why I teach from the chakras coming from the top down and including the ears, so that we open up to receive. Because if our ears are closed, our ears, our heart, and our base are interconnected. You will always hear me harp on about this, right? And our ears even look like our ovaries. Yeah? So, you know, like, the women who are, like, I got this, no, and they're like shut, and they don't let in help, they don't let anyone hold the door open for them, they don't, someone will give them a compliment, and they're like, oh no, I look shit today, like, you know, like, are you letting those compliments in? Because that's a tiny little bit of receiving that you're pushing away. So what else are you pushing away? Yeah? So let's open up to receive. Are you even listening? Are you even opening up to receive? Are you opening up your heart? Are you opening up your base, right? The biggest thing about ears, heart, and base, and it's trusting, right? So trusting life, trusting people, trusting in general, right? There's so much I could talk about that alone. So when we're looking at miscarriages, it's like, it's more than just there's something wrong with me, I did something wrong, right? There's a whole big picture involved to everything that's going on, right? So does anyone have any questions about miscarriages in particular? Because otherwise I'm just going to keep like talking. And the other thing I want to point out too is our sacral chakra, and I just went over this in my reality awareness support group this morning. If you guys are not in my reality awareness support group, in the past 4 weeks I've been doing the Get Clear Intuition, the free training, and we went through crown, third eye, ears, and we did a throat chakra live stream because we didn't want to miss out the throat because we're doing the clear organs. We just did the heart this morning. Now during that live stream this morning, I got the message that we need to continue on and do the rest of the chakras. I'm like, okay, of course we do. So if you're not in my reality awareness support group, you might want to jump in now because we're going to keep going through the rest of the chakras each week. So we're stepping into solar plexus this week. The point that I wanted to share is that in our sacral chakra, we carry a lot of grief. Yes, it's our heart, but our sacral also carries a lot of grief. Now, I went into depths about this on the heart chakra live stream in there today, so I don't want to repeat myself. So if that calls to you, I highly recommend watching it. But when we carry grief in our sacral, or we carry like when we feel empty, and so I always say, you know, like we can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, or take drugs or alcohol, whatever our addiction is, or relationship, we still feel empty because we're not nourishing ourselves from the proper source, which is God, which is spirit, which is universe, whatever you want to call it, right? Which is our soul being housed in our body so that we can like feel full, yeah? So with the, yes, exactly. Yes, the ears deeply connected to infertility. Someone asked in LPN, I meant to comment, but school was maybe occupied. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. The ears deeply connected to our womb space. Yeah. And being open to receive and open to receive and open to receive and trusting, right? It's a big trust thing, right? Having a baby is a big trust, or a project or anything like that, right? Yep. Got it. So, okay, and when I'm talking about the grief, so the thing I wanted to touch on here is, so the miscarriage for a woman, and a woman's carrying a lot of grief because she thinks there's something wrong, and then like the man feels like that too. Like, let's not forget about the man here. And this is like really important. This is where I felt called to share. It's like abortions, miscarriages, and, you know, stillbirths. Like, there's a lot of focus on the woman. Like, yes, fair enough, but also like, well, how's the man feeling, right? It's like men have the same emotions as women. They're just kind of not allowed to show them, like, in society, and so like this is where all this imbalance happens and blah blah. Anyway, the point is that men feel exactly the same, but they're just not given the same kind of treatment, if you may, because they're just supposed to hold it all together, and we know that that's not healthy or long-term beneficial, right? Well, it's the same thing, but you know what I mean. Sustainable is the word I was looking for. So when we talk about that, it's kind of like, I guess, acknowledging that in a male. So like if a male has been in a relationship and they've gone through, you know, like a pregnancy or any aspect of a woman falling pregnant to their child, and then that woman has had a miscarriage, or they've had an abortion or a stillbirth, that man carries that trauma as well, right? And this is where the sacral chakra, and a man, like, you know, being comfortable in his emotions, which most men aren't, and it is a training, hence please watch the the heart chakra live stream in my group that I just shared this morning. Going into the depths of that, right, is really, really important for men to have the same sort of healing. So, you know, in the train of thought that just came through then, it's like, you know, when men have infertility or even erectile problems, it's like are there any like traumas that they've had and they've been connected to with women in their life around, you know, like miscarriages, or the woman's gone had an abortion and they've never spoken to them again, or, you know, like there's a big fucking thing, like it's a big deal, right? So working through those sorts of traumas can also, you know, and we're talking about sacral and base chakra, right? And I always talk about let's be grounded in our body. If we're not in our body, who is? And then the other aspect of that, like you really want to step onto like life purpose, this is the shit we need to deal with, right? This is the like everyday real stuff that nobody talks about, that everybody goes through, and it's like, hello, right? So hey, if you guys are joining live, say hi. I can see Carrie joined. So Berta said, hey Hannah, I have a friend that had her stillborn baby 14 years ago yesterday. What advice would you give for her to aid in her healing understanding of her loss? She has 2 boys now and still with the same partner. Yeah, so okay, let's jump to stillborn birth. So again, it's the same sort of thing around the souls contracting. You know, like with their parents and the experience that we go through. Now, again, this is like one train of thought. Now, if you are with a person, like a, say like a friend, or you hear of somebody who has a miscarriage, who's gone through an abortion, who has a stillborn baby, the worst thing that you can say, the fucking worst thing that you can say, okay? Going to the worst thing you can say is, oh, that soul contracted that to you, and you contracted that with this baby. Like, this is just, everything happens for a reason, right? Like, fuck. This is the worst thing you can say. And I'm just saying that because I have been that spiritual like person of like, well, this is like the biggest picture of the whole like spiritual understanding of blah 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 blah. People don't fucking want to hear that in that moment. They're fucking grieving, they're dying, like their baby that has just passed away. Like, no. What do we do with somebody who is grieving? We fucking say how bad that is. We're like, oh my God, what can I do to help you? Right? How can I help you? Right? Maybe later on when they've gone through the grief cycle over and over and over 10 times ago, and then they come to you asking about the metaphysical understanding, then you can share it with them. Until then, you don't. You just help their healing, grieving heart, like for as long as that takes. And you may never need to speak about the spiritual understanding of everything that we know of what's going on the bigger plane. You know, and I was speaking to a client about this yesterday. As healers, intuitives, empaths, whatever you want to call it, we have this depth of understanding of all the different dimensional realities of how we're connected all at once, and we sense all possible outcomes, and like everything that we do as an empath, as a healer, like this is what we do, right? We're deeply connected to all dimensions, all realities, all at once, all the time. We can feel, see, know so many options, messages, blah, 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 right? Do we need to tell that person in the moment all the shit we know? Fuck no. Right? Well, why do we know that understanding? Because we know the best way to support that person. And the best way to support that person is to be quiet and hear them. And we can hold space for them because we know all this stuff's going on. We're like, yep, okay, cool, and we just hold them. Yeah? The spiritual bypassing thing is like, oh, don't feel your feelings, but it's also us not being comfortable with our feelings, like, right? This is what I just spoke about in the Reality Awareness Support Group. It's like, we know all their feelings, so we can just be there, right? If we try and shut that down, this is spiritual bypassing. They'll just be like, how can that person say that to me right now? Like, you know what I mean? And you probably won't be friends with them anymore. So when we're talking about like a stillborn baby, it's like, you know, the best thing you can do, Berta, is like, it's not like, are you still feeling sad about that? Of course they're going to be still feeling sad about that. Losing someone is always a grief hole, right? Until they've properly worked through the grief. So, yeah, I'm just seeing your comment there. So, and you're still going through the grief. Yeah, stillborn twins. Yeah, so the thing I want to, oh goodness, I'm trying to like, it won't let me click on like see, okay, don't touch it, Hannah. I'm waiting for it to come up on my screen here. The comment hasn't come up because I can't see. Still going through the grief. I'm assuming that's all the comment I can see. It's not coming up there yet. So the point that I wanted to share, so like the things that we can do like around miscarriage or stillborn baby is like, honor it. Like, you know, if you haven't felt the depth of the grief, and I tapped on this a little bit in the group this morning, I guess grief, when we really feel it, it feels like death. And I gave the process of how to deal with grief too in the group today. So if you're not in there and you haven't watched that live stream, please, I keep saying it for a reason. Grief, the depth of grief feels like death. And I know when I've personally dropped into the depth of grief, it drops through and straight into my sacral, and it's literally like this hole that tears through the ethers, that's just this great big, it's not even black. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a big black empty hole. It's just like a tear through the ethers, like the grief, and like you're piercing the veils as you're like, do you know when you can see someone, or like, I don't know, on a movie or something, I don't even know if they have it, right? And you're like, it's piercing through the veils. Like it's hard to describe unless you've been there, right? It's literally like death, and you're like it's not many people feel that depth. If you haven't felt that depth of grief about losing a baby, you're probably still holding on to the grief of it. Like you haven't let go properly. And the purpose of me talking about this live stream today was that if you're trying to manifest, if you're trying to have another baby, if you're trying to do all that and you haven't healed the grief that's sitting in your womb, whether you're male or female, sacral chakra, from any past miscarriages, stillborns, abortions in the past, you're still going to feel that grief. And I bet you feel that grief every time you bleed. It's like a over proportionalized grief that you feel when you get your period, because you're like, the grief still, you haven't let yourself feel it properly. And which is understandable, because not many people, it's uncomfortable to feel that level of grief, right? So I don't know why my comment's not coming, your comment's not coming up on there. Maybe I can, I don't know. I'm trying to see the rest of your comment. I'm assuming that's what you just said though, Beck. Oh, there it is. Why couldn't I see that before? Going through grief was hard after my boys. That's all I can see for some reason. Then last November I had a miscarriage. What do I want to say to that? So, okay. So obviously feeling the depth of the grief is really, really important. The other part is like doing like a ritual ceremony, right? Like, you know, and every time it's like it's an anniversary of a death. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's important to honor that. And there's a article that I shared in my Trust Intuition group, like for the, you know, like module 1, I go over this in depth, because this is how we learn to harness our intuition and ride the waves and blah blah blah. There's an article on grief, and I'm kind of feeling called to read it a little bit. Don't even know if it's going to come up. I cleared my cache the other day, and then like it cleared all my bookmarks too. I'm like, I didn't ask to clear all my bookmarks. Oh yes, it's still here. Why is that? Okay, maybe they just moved. Sorry, it didn't clear it. Okay, I feel really called to read this to you. It's really, really important, right? This is an article, one of the foremost voices in African spirituality, embracing grief. So I'm just going to read you a little story. Surrendering to your sorrow has the power to heal the deepest of wounds. So this is like from one of the African tribes, this woman. For many people, grief is an option. Looking at my own life, I realized it is a matter of life and death. In fact, throughout my entire life, grief has been an important theme, from crying for food as a child to dealing with deep pain and losses as I grow older. My earliest memory of deep grieving was when I was a little girl, about 5 or 6 years old. One of my playmates died. I was so shocked and confused by the whole business, especially when I'm told I would never see him in the physical form again. I grieved for a long time, and it just wouldn't stick in my head that my friend had died. Every day I would try go with the hope to play with him, but he wasn't there. My community, I get goosebumps with this bit, my community would gently say to me, "Do you remember that he died?" And they supported me and grieved with me. Although I grieved for a long time, over a year, it was accepted as a normal part of life. I was never asked, "Aren't you finished grieving yet?" Rather they would say, "Have you grieved enough? Have you cried enough?" Right? That's just the first paragraph, but it's really, really important to understand that, because grief comes in waves, right? And we can try and get on, like we do start getting on, and then something will trigger us, and then another wave will come. And this is why I'm always so passionate about teaching you to, you know, ride the waves and be with it. And there's nothing wrong with crying, right? So when we're talking about like miscarriages and, you know, healing from, oh look, I can see all these comments coming up now. Hang on a sec. Then, okay. So last November I had a miscarriage. Going through grief was hard after my boys were born. Then miscarriage, went through grief all over again, and now I'm good and ready. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you might still have grief come up, and you might have it like, every time you bleed. You like, you know, it comes up, right? Whether you miscarriage, stillbirth, or abortion, right? So let's talk about the abortion. This is a bit of a touchy subject, obviously. And then someone had commented on my page when I spoke about this around like abortions and stuff, and someone said, I don't know how they could do it. Actually, it doesn't, you know, some people can't fall pregnant, and there's some people having abortions, and it's like, the thought that went through my head, it's kind of like, it's like telling someone you should or shouldn't vaccinate. Like, it's kind of got nothing to do with you, right? And in a sense, it's like, you know, we might not understand why people live any part of their life, whether they're having abortions or miscarriages or stillbirths or getting a divorce. Like, we're not in their shoes. We don't know what's going on in their life, in their world, right? So the whole thing, sorry, I still need to say about the stillbirths, even miscarriages and stuff, like, you know, like I'm really hearing about the rituals. So I'm really hearing about like the, same with like a funeral. And I know you do funerals and stuff like that with, like miscarriage, maybe not miscarriages so much, but stillbirths, obviously, definitely. And any part of that is important to honor the grief, important to honor like the dates, if you will. And the message is, like, the message I'm hearing, like, the ritual is personalized to you. Whatever feels right for you. Whatever helps you in your life go through the grief cycle, move through, like anything that you need to do, right? So Matthew says, during our meditation earlier, I saw a baby, maybe 2 different ones, not sure what it meant until now. Healing from this. Okay, so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Matthew, because this is important, right? So when, like, men are connected to this so deeply, and I think it's like not even spoken about. I haven't actually really heard anybody talk about it, to be honest. It's all about the woman, which, you know, the woman goes through a lot, but the men go through just as much. They're just kind of expected to just shut it down, which what does that do? Shuts down their sacral and their base, and like, fuck, like, come on, like, okay, got it? So it's really, really important. So, okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, and this leads into abortions as well, is that the soul of the baby is always still there and around, okay? So whether we're talking about abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth, the soul of that baby is around. That is no different to mediumship. It's exactly the same thing. This is mediumship. Talking to a soul of a person who's already died, whether they died of old age or whatever. You feel the same, exactly, right? It's kind of what Cody said before too. It's like there's no difference. Like you guys are as emotional as us women. You guys are just expected to like hide it away, right? Which doesn't do anyone any good. Anyway, we're changing that. That's why we're here to change the world. Blah blah. So, so yes, and it's a bit like, okay, so I'm getting off topic. So the souls of the baby are around, and this is how we really kind of heal the depth, right? So even with abortion, now let's talk about abortion for a moment before I go into like, how we heal the biggest picture of it all. When we talk about abortion, like, we don't know why a person chooses abortion, but it's kind of none of our business, right? It's a bit like us sticking our nose in to a person and saying, like, for a stillborn baby saying, hey, didn't you know that soul contracted that with you? Like, get over it. Like, it's the same sort of thing. Like, hey, you shouldn't be having an abortion. Like, do you know what I mean? It's the same spiritual ego, like, disconnected from heart space, like, compassion. Like, hey, we don't fucking know what they're going through in their life. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, we don't know what made them come to those decisions. We don't know, like, you know. So the thing about abortion, it's the same thing in a sense of the grief And if you haven't felt the grief of, you know, like you choosing that, sometimes we can be like so shut off because we're like, you know, we're just like going through the whole thing. And I really want to point out, like, did you guys know, right? If you're wondering, like, how can people like do that, right? It's just like, well, we're not in their shoes. When we're talking about abortions, did you know that 1 in 3 women will have 1 abortion and 1 in 4 women will have 2? Those stats are pretty high, right? Now, I don't know what the stats are for miscarriages or stillbirths. It's probably pretty high too, right? If you think about it, when you walk down the street, it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a fuckload of women. That's a lot, right? I bet you there's people in your closest circle, you don't even know that they've had an abortion, right? It's a very, very unspoken taboo topic. But when we think about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's so common. And when we think about how taboo it is and not spoken about, and how we're not allowed to feel our feelings in society, and we're not allowed to cry, and we're like feeling all this guilt and this shame because we even got to this place, and we're like, oh my God, right? And we're carrying all that in our sacral and our base, let alone the rest of our energetic field, and we're wondering why our life is going around in circles and stuck, and why we can't manifest anything, and why we can't fall pregnant again, and why all this stuff is going on. It's like all this stuff is sitting in our sacral. Now, I find this so amazingly divine, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, 2 weeks ago when I posted that, like the star beings are like, you need to tell them this. So like on the 23rd to 25th of October, all these beings are ready to come in. Like all these souls are ready to come in. Like these are not just these are not rainbow children. This is like the next wave of children. These are star children that are coming in, right? And it's like, oh, here we are talking about abortions, miscarriages, and stillbirths, because we need to heal this space so that these souls can come in because they're ready, right? So you feel it in your chest, yes. I'm feeling it as you speak, but I know it's something I have needed to face. The time is coming, yes, right? It's like we need to be able to clear this space and clear the slate so that these new beings can come in without all that carried trauma, right? So what did I want to say? So, okay, yeah, so feeling the grief and like, you know, it's the same as like, going like it's the piercing through the veil stuff, you know, like when we lose somebody, whether a baby or a deceased loved one, like, you know, it's like that we're screaming through the veils of that depth of grief that feels like death. Does anyone have any questions? It's a pretty heavy topic to talk about, you know, especially when we're talking about grief and grief and grief and grief and grief. If you haven't watched my heart chakra in the Reality Awareness Support Group, please, I know I'm saying it all the time, but it's like how we can know that grief isn't as heavy as it kind of has to be when we learn how to be with it, and it's a normal part of life, just like death is. Okay, healing with the, okay, here's how we heal from abortions, miscarriages, what's the other one? Stillbirths. Men as well, okay, because men are carrying this trauma, men are energetically connected. We know we talk about energetic cords and we talk about all this, right? Men have got them to the babies that they, you know, ejaculated in the woman to create a baby. Like, hello, without them it wouldn't have happened, right? And I think as women we shut down as well, like to men, and we make it about them, and it's like it's both responsibility and then it's both grieving and it's both da 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 da. You are answering them as they come to mind. Awesome. Here's how we heal. We speak to the soul of the baby. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, and with every single miscarriage, abortion, and stillbirth that you've gone through in your life or been connected to with a man or a woman, right? Here's how we heal those threads, is we speak to the soul of the child, of the baby, right? Because that soul, you might sense them hanging around, right? And you didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. The whole thing is, 1, in the past, 2, all meant to be for whatever reason, because you guys are like, well, can't change the past, right? I never felt guilt, and I feel like that's because I never grieved. Yeah, we cut off. Yeah, we cut off from our emotions. We cut off from the trauma. We cut off because I'm going to feel, because fuck, it feels like death. Yeah, it's a hard one. When we can speak to the soul of the baby, and we have that connection, and it's like speaking to a person in real life. There's no difference there. You can speak to them, you can hear them, trust the messages that you receive, right? And that's all it takes is a conversation. They might hang around for a bit more if there's a bit more understanding, learning, grieving to do. If you need help, obviously I do mediumship. You know, it's like talking to a person. There's no difference in the spirit world. There's no difference to an older person passing away to a baby soul, like they're around, right? Now, speaking to the soul of the baby helps to heal them, like helps to heal you, helps to heal those threads that are like still there, right? Now, what was I wanting to say there? Do you guys have any questions? I was just going to say something. Okay, so the souls may come back into like your life. The souls may, you know, if you had an abortion, if you had a miscarriage or had a stillbirth, you might see someone close to you, around vicinity of you, have a baby, and you're like, that's my baby. Or like you recognize the soul, or you're like, okay then, it's meant to be now, right? You might feel that. That can be hard too. Always felt I wasn't good enough. That's why James changed his contract. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we get this information and we know, right? And so, and it's interesting, right? So the gift in this for you, Matthew, for example, would be like, oh, James changed his contract because I felt like I wasn't good enough. So my lesson, my gift in this is to work on my self-worth so I do feel good enough to become a dad, right? When we look at that, yeah, is, you know, what I would be saying to that. So I'm trusting that you understand that, Matthew, and I hope and trust that you're working on that. Can the soul come back with you as your next pregnancy? Yes. Yes, definitely. So I felt like with my client, the one that I shared that she broke her foot and she had to stay still. She couldn't, you know, she couldn't keep doing and be in the masculine energy. She had to be in her feminine receiving energy. If you think about it, she was on crutches. She had to stay still for 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, let us receive. Let us come into you. It's like that. I felt that was the same soul, like waiting, like, mom, come on, sort of thing. So yes, the soul can come back as your next pregnancy. The other thing that souls can do is that they can shift the entire dynamics of the planetary consciousness of humanity as they come in, or you choose not to have them. So you have an abortion or a miscarriage or a stillbirth, right? Whichever choice that was, yeah? Whatever experience, I should say, you went through about that. And you speak to that soul of that baby. So I'm kind of speaking about abortions more so in this moment in time. So like, you know, because a woman can carry a fuckload of guilt for having an abortion, like so much, right? Unless you, one, speak to the soul, feel the grief, and do the, like, feel the grief and work through that, right? It doesn't mean that it becomes easier. It just means that you're dealing with it, okay? Rather than being cut off from it and then having all these problems down, including finances, other relationships, other situations, right? So with that soul, like, you know, if you speak to the soul of the baby, even if you've had the abortion, you can still speak to the soul of the baby. It doesn't have to be like before, but if you know you have to do that, you can speak to the soul of the baby and have that conversation. You know, it's kind of like, you know, say it was it could be rape, or it could be like a shit ass relationship, and you're like, I don't want to bring another baby into this crappy ass relationship again. Like, if I'm going to bring a baby in, it has to be in a loving relationship. And you could be very clear about that, and you could speak to the soul of the baby, and the baby's like, yeah, I know, mum, cool, it's all good, bye, and they go, right? That shit happens, right? And then you do your inner work and you're like, I need to work on myself and sort my fucking life out because I want a loving relationship. And it's like, you know, we have all these lessons and we work through and grow in our consciousness when we have that deep understanding of why everything happens in the first place. And sometimes we don't know why in the moment, but when we start looking for the answer or asking for help and guidance about the why this has happened, and we look at that big picture and then we actually take action on it. For example, Matt, when you said, Matthew, when you said, you know, like that's why he changed his contract, because I felt like I wasn't good enough. So it's like, okay, fine then. Like, okay, maybe there's still grief. There's definitely grief about it. Please don't think like just because you get the lesson that you don't feel grief. Like, no, that's just cut off and you're in your head. Like, you might get the lesson, but there's still grief you need to deal with. It's change, right? Any change brings upon the grief cycle. So when you can really like drop into the grief, feel it, even though you know there's a higher plan at path, it means that there's still grief going on, and it's okay to feel that. Because when you feel the grief that's sitting in your sacral and your base, the shame, the like, I can't believe that happened to me, this situation, when you shift that out, you clear the slate so that you can let another soul in without all that carried grief, shame and everything, and then the child's processing that too. Yeah? You felt that after his passing. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and that's the stuff, like this stuff's real. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean, like talking to a soul on the other side is no different to having conversation to your angel, to your spirit guide, to a person in the room. Like, there is no difference. And you'll sense that, you know, you guys are empaths, you feel them, right? Don't doubt that, okay? You feel them right there. Okay, is there anything else that I need to say about this? Oh, we are the center of the universe. Oh, just gonna talk about that. I don't know if I'm feeling called to talk about that now. Let me pull some cards on this. I'm not pulling cards for people. I got the message last week to not pull cards for people on live streams anymore, in a sense, because there's just so many like people, and I feel bad because I don't like, I want to give everybody a reading, but I just can't anymore because there's too many. I just thought that I had mediumship cards. That's why I was thinking there for a moment. Oh, maybe it's... Oh, I think this is the deck that I'm thinking of, because he's the mediumship guy. I did have mediumship cards. One, just trying to think where they are. The mediumship deck. I had a clean out a while ago. Did I get rid of my mediumship deck? Okay then. So I'm just like, where is that deck gone? I must have. Is that why I'm like, the past 24 hours, I'm like, I need to go to the shop and buy more cards. Okay. It's time. Yeah, awesome. I'm going to talk about We Are the Center of the Universe on a different live stream. I was going to talk about it now, but... Alright, so these are... Let me turn this around. It's going to load. So James Van Prague is the mediumship guy. These are not the mediumship cards I was talking about. I don't understand where they've gone. I'm like, how? And I'm missing like cards out of my other deck. I'm like, what other cards am I missing? I'm like, where's all my cards gone? It's so weird, right? Anyway, it must be just time to buy new ones. So, I forgot that I didn't. Anyway, okay, just let it go, Hannah. Let it go. I'm trying to figure it out. All right, let's do a past, present, and future for anyone that's ever had an abortion, a miscarriage, or a stillbirth on this live stream, even if you're watching the replay. All right, so past card. So these are the soul's journey. These are like life lesson cards, right? So interesting. Okay, the past card, right? Check it out. Change. And it's orange. It's the Sacral Chakra. And it's blue, third eye. We're seeing the truth about what's going on, right? Change. I understand that nothing can grow or evolve without movement. Well, we know that, right? And by the way, going through something like that wakes you up, of course, right? There's many things that can wake you up, but having an abortion, a miscarriage, or the stillbirth, it's a wake up. It wakes you up to the truth. It wakes you up to big chunk in reality, right? The tree just hidden, same as bookmarks. What do you mean by that? They're your colours. I'm not sure what you mean by that. The tree is just hidden, the same as bookmarks. Okay, this is a present card. No. Oh, I just felt that. Ah! You ready for this? This is the present card, right? So when we look at the past, we fall pregnant. Either you're male or female, you had a part in it. This one, success. I know that there is no greater goal than to love. What happens? Did you guys just feel that? Let me read that again. I know that there is no greater goal than to love. Than to love. What happens when a male and female come together? I'm going to wait for your comments, guys. Can you please comment this below? What happens when a male and female come together in sexual intimacy? Waiting for your comments. I'm going to pull the final outcome card while I'm waiting for your comments. What happens when a male and female come together? What happens when a male and female come together? I know that there is no greater goal than to love. We come together as male and female to procreate, to heart chakra's open and we intertwine. Yeah, we love. Male and female come together to procreate, we mate, we have babies. But what pulled us together in the first place? What pulled us together in the first place is love. Love pulled us together in the first place. Whether it was a shit relationship or not, it's like this magnetic attraction. We came together in love. What do we create when we procreate? We're creating love. Every being is made of love. Just gonna drop it in the space. So when we're judging somebody, good, bad, right or wrong, judging the murderers, judging the pedophiles, and I'm dropping it in, it's going deep here, judging your mum and dad because they're fucked up, judging your neighbour because you can hear them yelling, what are you doing? You're judging love. If every single being on this planet came together through love, we created love, we created this being of love. Every newborn baby, everyone's like, oh, except when they're crying maybe. We're like, oh, what do I do? Sorry. Like, oh, this little baby of love. And then they grow up with all these beliefs and we're like, that fucking person, fucking Jesus. What are we doing? We're judging love. So interesting. The sacral chakra, orange. The third eye chakra, where we see the truth, right in the middle. Look, it goes back to orange. It's like inflow, outflow. The sacral chakra and the third eye chakra, deeply interconnected because they are both one in from the top and the bottom, right? They're deeply connected. In the light field yoga, we've got the third eye chakra pose and then we drop it down and it's the sacral chakra pose. It's the same. What are we actually judging? Are we judging? We're judging love, right? It's a pretty deep concept, hey? But it's the same thing when we're talking about like, you know, like focus on the love within, focus on the spark of love or the spark of light within. Everybody has that. And we're like, it's all this shit on the top. When we're judging a person, we are judging pure love. And love is the undertone of that person. Every single expression on the spectrum of good, bad, right or wrong, of like this emotion, that emotion, negative emotion, positive emotion, it all exists here. It's not that it never exists, because it all exists. We talk about duality, we talk about polarity, we talk about all of that. Duality divides, polarity unites. It just is. Whatever that person is doing is an expression of love. Even when it doesn't seem like it, but we've judged it as wrong. And this is where it comes into owning our power and knowing how to deal with our emotions, which is everything I just spoke about on the heart chakra live stream in my reality awareness support group this morning, of how to deal with our emotions, how to gain our power so that we can hold this space of all the expressions of love on the planet. And maybe the word's not love. Who knows what that thing is called that connects us all. But that is the thing that pulls us together and that still creates us and always just here. The final outcome card, a little bit interesting. Doubt. I release the need to know all the answers. So this is when we're trying to figure it out. Oh, this happened, that happened. Oh, like, oh, that person's wrong. Oh, they made a wrong decision. Or I did, I'm carrying shame from that. Like, oh, like all this stuff, right? We start doubting. We've come into here trying to figure it out because we don't want to feel the pain of our heart. Look, it's green. It's green, yellow, and brown. We've jumped into here. But the point is we need to stay here. We don't need to know all the answers. I release the need to know all the answers. We need to stay in our heart, green, and be with the whole process that has unfolded, that is on the whole spectrum of every experience that we're ever here to experience without judgment, to be with all of that. We don't need to know the answers. We just need to be present with the entire thing. Yeah? Interesting overlying card. Health. I will honor the physical vessel that enriches my soul. When we talk about looking after our body, when we talk about nourishing our body, when we talk about caring for our body, when we talk about honoring our vessel and who we are and what we're doing on the planet, this wakes us up. Fuck, there's baby in there. Oh, I had a miscarriage. Oh, like apart from all the grief and everything, it's like, actually, maybe I need to take better care of my health. Mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. It wakes us up to another level of being on this planet. Hugely. Even with the stillbirth. What other aspects do I need to do to take care of myself? And I would be asking the soul of the baby this question as well. Yeah? Every single decision that we make affects our tomorrow. And every single decision that we make is never, ever, ever wrong. Because all we are doing is trusting what feels right in our heart in the moment. It's not like we feel the wrong choice and we're like, oh, this is the wrong choice, I'm going to make this. No. In that moment, it was right for us, and that's where we need to trust. Yeah? Have to start walking the talk. Yeah. That fully come up on the live stream in the heart this morning, didn't it? Or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you guys are in the world. Getting there. Yeah. You're all just becoming aware of it. Just starting. Well, I mean, not all just starting. Just going deeper and going deeper and going deeper and going deeper. Alright, I'm going to talk about we are the center of the universe in a different thing, but I have a feeling it's very similar. Very similar concept, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So, if you think this live stream can help somebody, please tag their name in the comments or send it to them in a private message. You can share it, and if you want to work with me one-on-one, my Goal Reacher program is finishing this week, or doors are closing, I should say, this week. And do you guys have any questions before I jump off this live stream? I know it's a pretty kind of deep live stream, but it's a topic that I really felt called to talk about, because soon there's star beings being infiltrated into the planet. I said it, it doesn't sound very nice, does it? Infiltrated into the planet. Look at the card that was just underneath the top card. So the health on the bottom card of the deck. Look at the card that was underneath. Relationships. Look at the big infiltration of the, this is why I like this jumped out at me, of the pattern, the sacred geometric pattern there. Relationships. I attract those people who serve my higher good. Like, everything's perfect even when it doesn't feel like it. The times when it doesn't feel like it, it's like, whoa, okay, there's some kind of thing going on here that I just need to be with right now. It's just like, okay, I don't know, and I just need the support, right, to get through. Yeah, and I just felt called to talk about this. Now, obviously, if you're in my Trust Intuition group, I went deep into personal stories, into other journeys, and so much more. So if you're in my Trust Intuition group, you can do that. Back in my reality awareness support group, so it's actual reality awareness support group, it's a Facebook group. If you send me a private message, I can send you the link to request to join, or if you just type it in the Google search bar, reality awareness support group, it should come up. And it's one of the live streams, it'll be sitting in there, the replay is sitting in there. So if you're not already a member, that's where you can find it. So yes, does anyone have any last questions before I go? If you're just jumping on, I'd recommend watching the entirety of this live stream. But if you want to work one-on-one with me, 3 months deep over the last 3 months of this year to really set the tone for your 2019, and as we move into the age of Aquarius, if you're really wanting to amplify and birth your life purpose, now is the time to jump in on that. The link is pinned to the top in the comments, so if you've got any questions about the Goal Reacher program, please send me a private message. And I don't think anyone else has got any questions. Yeah, okay, awesome, you're very welcome. I shall see you guys soon. Thanks for joining me on this weekend. Have a beautiful evening, afternoon, or rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Hey Doreen, I'm just about to jump off. Namaste.